Welcome back to another episode of Orinda GE podcast Shift the Narrative. I'm Yasmin, and today we're shifting our focus to a movement that's redefining what it means to be a successful business. We're talking about corporate social responsibility (CSR), where profit meets purpose. Gone are the days where companies only chase bottom lines. Today, businesses are stepping up, addressing social issues, reducing environmental footprint, and proving that doing good is also good for business. But how? Can companies truly balance profit and purpose? And what does the future of responsible business look like? To unpack this and more, I'm thrilled to welcome our guest today, Omar Benaisha, co-founder of 30 Trust Group and a leader in DigiTrust, ESG, and sustainable tech across Africa and the Middle East. Welcome, Mr. Omar.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Let's start simple. CSR means different things to different people. For someone who's never heard of it, how would you explain CSR in one sentence?
In one sentence, yeah, it's quite complex concept to be defined in one sentence, but basically, here we are talking about the responsibility of business. So beyond doing and making profit for shareholders, what is the responsibility of business? So this is what is about CSR.
Thank you. Now, what sparked your passion for CSR? Was there a moment or a project that made you think this is the future of business?
I was working in standardization field and in helping companies to improve their efficiency and operations efficiency and improving their impact in terms of customer satisfaction and of course protection of their assets and their people, and of course in terms of their contribution and their impact on society in general. From there, I start to be interested in sustainability and CSR when I decided in 2010 to apply for a PhD program, and I choose CSR as a subject of research and a topic of research. And starting from there, it was, I think, 15 years ago right now, and I was really impressed by all the literature I found about CSR, which is not a new topic. It's a very rich academic literature, but as well a very rich, let's say, best practices around the world and in many geographies since maybe 70 or 80 years. And final word, I think that what was very interesting in CSR is it is a kind of artifact, kind of concept that give meaning for business management and entrepreneurship i- at large scale. So uh, it's really a concept that push you to really to dig very deep in terms of what business is and what is the purpose of business, and the kind of question you just asked at the beginning of the talk. Can we be profitable while we are responsible and all that? So it's very interesting, very amazing discussion we can have around all these concepts thanks to CSR.
Amazing. Now, zooming out. What's one CSR initiative that you've seen recently that blew you away?
Yeah, recently I think there is a lot of noise about climate change. So I think many companies, many businesses today, they are asking themselves what is about and what is the impact of climate change on the business and operations. And starting from there, they start asking themselves as well how they can contribute uh, to mitigate and at least to reduce the effect of the climate change. So I think this is the main trending topic in CSR and sustainability today. And of course, along with climate change, there is two other topics which are very touchy, very, let's say, uh, uh, are very important today in business today. The first one is the the human rights in in terms of let's say risks for the business, and how the business should make sure that their operations are not influencing or encouraging some human rights, abuses and so on. And the second topic is the biodiversity. So biodiversity is as well a very very hot topic in this field today, because of it is very linked to climate change, but it's not the same thing. So this is the three topics today, let's say, that are really very important for businesses, because they have impact on the sustainability of the business model of the companies, and really challenge the existence of some companies and some businesses.
Some still see CSR as just charity or PR, but you've seen firsthand how it boosts business. Which industries are leading the charge in profitable CSR?
I think the main sector, or the main business segment that is really working hard on CSR, I think, are all the businesses that have a close link to communities. For instance, in the mining sector, for instance, in food sector, agriculture sector, and so on. CSR today is really very important topic, because not only if it is mismanaged, it can harm the brand, but as well today is a prerequisite for instance, for funding the business and for getting money from lenders. So today, I think these sectors that are related to resources are the first mover. And by the way, they are first mover since the beginning, since decades. So all the businesses that deal with resources are very exposed to critics, and very exposed to the challenges and the risks of CSR and sustainability. So oil and gas, mining, agriculture, as well today some activities in fishing industry, textile and apparels, fashion today. There is a lot of pressure on fashion, for instance, to have responsible operations in fashion industry and so on. So all the one which are related to resources are the most exposed.
Interesting. And what about talent? Millennials and Gen Z famously want to work for purpose driven companies. How is CSR reshaping recruitment?
Yeah, sure. Today in the developed country, we can see that millennial and Gen Z, of course, they are very committed to CSR, and they don't all, they will not work definitely with a company that is not, has not a good score in terms of CSR, and good reputation in terms of integrating CSR sustainability in its operation. But in the developing countries, like in our countries, I think the situation is still different. I think the challenge today is to get employed, to have an opportunity to join a company, or maybe to set up a business. But it will come. It's kind of, let's say, delay in terms of the impact of these topics on different geographies. But definitely today we see, even in some studies and in some survey done by some big corporates, some big company specialized in doing survey, there is today a correlation, and there is a clear link between the will of joining a company and what the company is doing in terms of sustainability and CSR. And it's very difficult to attract talent if you don't have some good practice to showcase, and at least the young people have the assurance that the company they are going to work for is committed for sustainability at large, or for some, let's say, topic or issues in terms of sustainability. And you remember 3 days ago, Ibtihal Abu Saad in this gathering of Microsoft, which take the mic and criticize Mustafa, who is the head of AI within Microsoft. This is a kind of reaction and of behavior which is very normal for this new generation, because they cannot continue to be quiet and just see their company, behaving in an ethical way and just let things go. So you have more and more voices in this generation that is really willing to change things uh, from inside the corporation and from inside the companies. And I think you read last year the manifesto by the new cohort in an agri school in France, which they during the graduation ceremony they decided to to give a speech, which was not in the program, it was not in the menu, let's say. And they give a speech about sustainability and they commit in front of their parents, in front of the responsible of the school, and all the people invited to this ceremony. They speak loudly, saying that they are committed to change the things to preserve the planet, and of course to change the behavior of companies and corporations. But the way is still very long, and there is a lot of things to do. It's not as easy as we can say. Reality is something different.
Thank you for your insights. Now let's get real. Can small businesses or startups compete with big players in CSR?
Not really, because if you go back to all this academic research was done about CSR, there is a clear correlation between the size of the company and the commitment and the engagement in terms of CSR. So the more company is big, the more is committed in terms of CSR. Why? It's obvious, because when you are big, you have many stakeholders that may have power on you, that you need to operate, and so you need to show your commitment and you need to commit, for instance, to hire talents, to keep the talents inside the company, maybe to access some resources, and as I said at the beginning, it could be to ease the process of lending money and financing the operations and so on. So the more company is big, the more it needs to show that it is committed. And there is also as well the brand that you need to of course to promote, and you need to showcase a brand which is committed, which is responsible, which is eco-friendly, which is committed to improve the conditions of communities and so on. But when you are a small and medium business, I think priorities are different. You need first to get business from this big company. By the way, you need to ensure that you are compliant with all the social, financial, with tax, requirements. And you will struggle to get people, to get HR, to get talent within the company. And above of all this, when you are a small and medium business, you will have to as well to grow the business and to get the money to grow the business. So you need to manage the cash. You need to do a lot of things. So you have many challenges. So if you only comply with regulation and you have good HR management and you are client centric, and of course you do what is needed in terms of preserving your people and your business, I think it's enough for a small and medium business to be considered as a responsible business. But when you are a big company, a large company, it's not enough. You need more commitment. You need to spend more money because of all these stakeholders I am talking about. And of course, the more the company is big, the more stakeholders will be requiring and will be demanding in terms of support, in terms of resources, in terms of requirements to give you the what we call the social license. When you are working in the society as a business, or let's say at very small scale, when you are working with communities, if the community don't agree to let you operate and to let you, maybe use the local resources and maybe pay the wage that you want to pay to be competitive and so on, you are not be able to run the business. So my point of view in terms of that is that CSR at the end of the day, it is a mix of the willing of the top management, but it is a result as well of the struggle and the power that you are going to negotiate and between you and your stakeholders. So it's not the same pattern when you are a large business or when you are a small or medium business.
Let's examine how corporate social responsibility impacts real-world business outcome. Could you help us analyze two comparable organizations, one with robust CSR integration and one without? Which pair would provide the most illuminating case study for our audience?
Yeah, I think this is a very good use cases or business cases, let's say, or study case in terms of CSR. Because on one hand, you have one company with a very integrated CSR approach or strategy, and another one which has really, let's say, a cosmetic CSR policy or approach. So definitely there will be two cases very different in terms of the outcome and in terms of even of the reward they can get from their commitment in terms of CSR. I think the company that is integrating CSR will be able, of course, to show its commitment and, of course, to change some things in its operational model, and maybe in its relationship with stakeholders and so on, while doing more profit uh, in terms of bottom line, and not only the profit of the company, but even some return on investment on some project. And they can give you some examples. So if I think the environmental dimension, uh, today, if you do energy efficiency in a company, and this is by the way a good way or a good approach to integrate CSR. So you do energy, you implement an energy efficiency program. So it is a commitment to, of course, decrease the emission of CO2, but as well, it is for the company big savings of cost of energy, by the way. So at the end of the day, the company, by doing that, they are cutting the emission and they are saving a lot of money in terms of energy consumption. So this is how integration of CSR can as well save costs and, of course, improve the bottom line of the company. Now, if we take another company which has a cosmetic CSR approach, which is not really integrated, so what these kind of company are doing right now? So they are going to implement some project with communities, or even they can do some things for their people inside the company. And they will do it once a year, or maybe they do it sometimes when they have some cash. When they don't have the cash and don't have the money, they will not do it, and so on. And what is the outcome of this action at the end of the day? They are going to communicate on what they did. And what the return on investment that they will get will be only maybe improvement in terms of the brand, in terms of their reputation, but they will not gain anything in terms of cost saving, in terms of increase of the customer loyalty, in terms of improving operations by the end of the year. And they they will figure out that the CSR is extra cost. It's only another program that require resources for which we need to spend money because we need to do it. That's all. But the company that integrates CSR, definitely, I give you the example of environment, but I can give you the example of HR. For instance, if you implement a program for your people and you retain your talent and you improve the work condition and you improve the let's say the climate of work in general, in many companies which are doing that, they are getting more productivity from their people and they are getting more retention because people they love working for the company and they last more in the company than in another company. And in HR, when you have this kind of condition and you don't need to change people very frequently and so on, so you save a lot of costs, you keep the knowledge within the company and the expertise, and at the end of the day you have a better bottom line. So definitely I can spend hours and hours explaining to you different situation, different case, where if you integrate CSR and you commit for CSR and you integrate it in the process of the company, it will not be at all at a cost at the end of the day. At the opposite, it will be really an improvement in terms of profit, and not only because you will improve as well the brand, you will improve the relationship with stakeholders, and you will improve a lot of things. You can even innovate and improve the product itself. And yeah, I think you can do a lot of things if you integrate CSR.
Now imagine if a company is on the brink, maybe due to bad press or like falling sales. How could CSR turn things around?
No, I think, I, look, if a company is not making profits, they will not commit anything in terms of CSR. They will only commit if the customer ask them to comply with regulations or to comply with some practices. And in this case, CSR became or become what we call a license to operate. It means that it is a license. You cannot operate, you cannot work with these customers if you don't apply the rules that they are dictating to you. So, for instance, I give you examples. In Tunisia and maybe in Morocco, there is many textile manufacturers working with European, apparel and textile retailers like Inditex, Zara, or some other companies. And all these local manufacturers, in the reality, they are doing and they are implementing some CSR practices. But why they are doing that? They are not doing that because they are committed, because they want to have a purpose and all what we discussed at the beginning of this talk. But they do it because if they don't do it, Inditex or some other companies, they will just terminate the contract with them, and they will lose the customer and they will lose the business. So yeah, definitely, I think that the best way to continue commitment in terms of CSR is making sure that what you are doing is profitable as well for the company. And at least you get a return on investment. The return of investment in CSR is not mandatory to be only in terms of money. It can be other return on investment, and these return on investment can be in 2 years, in 3 years, in 4 years. For example, if I take the example of a mining company, when they are doing some actions and they are helping communities, for instance, you know, the fact that the communities accept this company to operate, and the fact there is a very good relationship between the company and these communities, it's a lot of money saving for these mining companies. Because otherwise, if they are in trouble with these communities, what will happen? These communities will come, will, for instance, force the company to stop operations. They will stop trucks to transport, for instance, mine or resources from the mining site to the factory, and so on. So they can stop your business, they can stop your operations. And when they stop your operations, every day can cost a lot of money for the company. So CSR will help to manage this relationship and to have a peaceful, let's say, relationship with this community. So the outcome, the return on investment of CSR, it's not all the time money or profit. Of course, everything can be transformed into profit, but sometimes it is kind of improving the relationship with communities, improving the relationship with people, with workers. It can be having more customers loyalty, and of course, at the end of the day, it will be a more profit for the company if it is real and it is integrated.
So you think that integrating CSR in a business can't save a dying business?
I think if you are in trouble, if you have difficulties in a business, I don't think that the best things to do in terms of priorities is to launch a CSR strategy or approach. You know, when you are in trouble, what you have to do the first is cut cost. Definitely. Because you need to get cash in the company. And just keep in mind that whatever revenue a company is doing is a vanity. You know, you are doing millions of Tunisian dinar or Morocco dirhams. This is a vanity. But what is the reality? What is the reality is the cash. Your capacity to transform the revenue of the company into cash, this is what keep business going. And the cash is the blood of of any business. If you don't have cash, it is like if you have no more blood in your body. So when you are in trouble, when you are dying, the first thing you have to do is to get the company again steady and stood on its fundamentals. And of course, you need to bring confidence again, to build the confidence with your stakeholders. Because when you are dying, what will happen for your people? Your talent will quit their jobs. Your customers will stop working with you. Your suppliers will stop working with you because you are not paying them, and so on. So the priority is to reestablish the relationship with stakeholders. You need to again to bring the company again on track, working operations and so on. And of course, you can do CSR when, let's say, a formal CSR, when all things are normalized. And by the way, normalizing the relationship with stakeholders and improving the cash of the company, by the way, is a CSR as well. Don't forget that in CSR or ESG, you have the G of governance. Governance is the way we are deciding and is the way we are managing the company. So if you are not managing the company in the good way, and you are, for instance, wasting the cash of the company, and you are taking bad decisions, this is what we call bad governance, you are not a CSR company. So this is what is amazing in CSR. From the start, when you are building the company, or when you are really turn around in a company, everything you do, every step you do in the good direction, it is doing good. Okay, and it is CSR for me. But you will not have a formal strategy with a policy, with formal communication and with KPI and all that, until first you you save the, let's say, the operations and the business, and you keep, and you bring again the company to work correctly, and bring operation on the good track.
So, what do you think is the biggest obstacle companies face when launching CSR?
For me, the great obstacle, or the big obstacle, is the misunderstanding of CSR. And just let me tell you or saying something. I worked with many companies in CSR in the last years, and every time I was surprised when I start a project. I was very surprised by the lack of knowledge of the boards of the companies about CSR. So you come to the board to kick off the project, and people start asking you, are we going to get an ISO certificate? What is CSR? And when you explain to them what is CSR, they're going to tell you, oh, but CSR, it is everything. How we can manage something which is everything? CSR is everywhere. So it's unmanageable. And of course, this is the main hurdle for me. Why? Because every change in a company, to be successful, need a very strong commitment from the top management. So if the top management is not aware of what we want to do, of the transformation that we need to do at the company level, it is very difficult to be successful. By the end of the day, it became like any other project, just having some procedures, having some meetings, having some dashboards, and having a good report at the end of the year. But the reality is that there is not a very good approach in terms of CSR. It is not integrated and so on. And by the way, today, if you go to companies and you look where they put CSR as a responsibility and as an entity in the chart, in the organization chart, you will see that in some companies it is put with communication. So for many companies, CSR is communication. So just doing some good actions and start saying we are the best, we are the, and so on. Some they put CSR with HR. So CSR for them, it is more a social stuff. It's more about managing social relationship, managing unions, managing bad people, and so on. So you will have CSR with, and sometimes we are glad to see in some companies that CSR stand alone as a department, reporting to the top management, and really with very clear vision of what we want to do. And really, companies, they don't start from policy, CSR policy. They really start from the foundation, which is the purpose, change the vision of the company, and really be sure that all, at least the board, but all the managers knows what is really the vision and why we are going into CSR strategy. And it's very important. So for me, the hurdle, and today, what is the priority? is really to teach and to explain to all the managers what CSR means.
Now, time for a little myth busting. CSR is surrounded by misconceptions. Some think it's just PR, others believe it's only for big corporations. Let's separate facts from fiction. I'll throw a common belief about CSR and you tell me if it's true or false and why. Are you ready?
It's a go.
Okay, first one. CSR is just charity. It doesn't help a company's bottom line.
No, it's false, and this is very American approach of CSR. So it's charity, or what would they call philanthropy. So CSR is just philanthropy. So it just doing very good profit and then sign a check for an ONG, or doing dinner gala, and collect some money for social cause and for a noble cause and so on. No, it's false, of course. So charge.
Okay, second. Only large corporations can afford meaningful CSR initiatives.
It's false as well. I think every company, every business, whatever is its size, deserve a very specific CSR approach and CSR policy and CSR setup, let's say. And even if you go into same sector, you will see, if you compare two companies, you will see that the CSR program of this company is not exactly the same that the other company, even if they are in the same sector. So CSR is what is good is that you have the scope of your CSR. It's up to you to define what is your scope. And the scope of the CSR that you are going to implement will depend mainly on two things. The first one is the issues that you want to work on, the issues that you want to consider. And the second is the stakeholders that you want to work with. And there is no requirement in terms of stakeholders that you need to onboard in your CSR journey, and there is no requirement in terms of the nature or the number of issues that you need to consider in your CSR approach. So it's up to you. You can start very small, start very simple approach, and then get it more and more sophisticated. If you are a big company, you can hire consultant and you can build something which is very large in terms of scope. And of course, you have the team, you have the resources to manage that, and so you can go. But if you are a very small company, you can still start by very simple actions. And for me, for small and medium businesses, the first things they have to do is first to comply with the law. If you comply with the law in terms of environment, the law in terms of social, the law in terms of governance, and by the way, complying with the law, it's not very demanding. It is a must to be in the business. And there's a lot of SMBs which are not which are not complying with the law and with the regulations. So just start complying with your local regulations, and you can have a very nice CSR program to implement.
Okay, now we pass to the third question. CSR but myth. The third myth. Three, CSR is all about the environment, social impact is secondary.
No, I don't think so. I think that this is just the let's say the consequence of the misunderstanding of CSR. And you are right. In some companies, even today, some large companies, they have sustainability policy or sustainability strategy for the business. And when it comes to communities and to social impact, they call it CSR program. So CSR, it is only about communities. Okay, but normally, the origin of the adoption of the CSR concept, it is about how the business can be or should be responsible about its impact on the society, on the planet. And in planet, you have all these environmental questions and issues. And in the society, you have your people inside the company and you have the people outside the company, which we call communities, by the way. So CSR, it is an holistic concept. It is an holistic approach. Holistic means that you cannot consider only the environment or the social or the governance dimension. You need to consider all the dimension: environmental, social, internally and externally, and the governance. And of course, it's up to you, depending on your size, depending on your sector activity, and so on. You can you go far in terms of commitment in environment, or go far in social or in governance. And of course, the minimum, the must have, the minimum you must have, of course, it is all what is required by the law and the regulation. Keep that in mind. You cannot define your business as a responsible business if you don't comply with the law, if you don't apply the regulations. Even if you are doing a lot of good things for communities, for environment, for your people, if you are not complying in terms of tax, for instance, if you don't pay your tax, or for instance, if you don't apply regulation in terms of human rights, if you for instance, you bribe your customers, you use bribery to get your work and to get your contracts signed and so on, you cannot at the end of the day do some good stuff and say I am very responsible business and I am committed and so on. So no. So this is the way I see it.
Okay, so we pass to the fourth question. Customers don't really care about CSR, they just want cheap products.
It depends. In our countries, customers are still looking for cheap product because of the capacity to buy. She's very low, and because of the local context. But I can assure you that in some countries, in developed countries, there is many companies that are obliged to implement CSR because of the consumers and the customers. And by the way, if you know the ISO 26000, which is the main standard for CSR today worldwide, this standard was developed by the COPOLCO. The COPOLCO is the Committee for the Protection of Consumers. So the consumers are the one, the ONG, the NGOs, the NGOs that work on consumers protection are the one that did a lot of lobbying and a lot of pressure to ISO to get this standard adopted by ISO. So if you take, for instance, I give you just an example. In Africa, for instance, in the in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where there is a lot of mining activity for diamond, for instance, there is some fights there between some villages about who will be exploiting some diamond mining and so on. And they fight. And there is a lot of people that are killed because of these fights. And who is today pushing the government to implement regulations and push mining companies to be aware of these fights and to make sure that there is no people are killed in these mines and make sure that there is no children working in the mine? Who is pushing to get that done? It's consumers. It's the people. It's the ladies or even men's that are wearing, jewelry in diamond, that are pushing very hard. And how they do that? When they go to a store to buy a diamond jewelry, for instance, if you don't find the certificate within the box of the diamond on which is written that this diamond was extracted without any blood and so on, they will never buy this diamond, even if it is very nice, maybe even if it is very cheap. There is, if you know about the fair trade, call it in French, commerce équitable. There is a label, a logo of fair trade of many products in the supermarket in Europe, for instance. Why this producer put this label or this logo on their product? Because there is a lot of consumers in Europe, for instance, they are not going to buy the coffee or the tea or the cheese and so on if there is not this label. Because what this label mean? It means that there is a fair contribution to the agriculture and to all these people in Africa, for instance, or in Asia that work to make this product available in the supermarket in Europe. So the way they are uh, producing and the way they are sharing the revenue with this agriculture is very important for this consumer to decide whether they are going to buy or not to buy the product. So today, I think one of the stakeholders that is pushing very hard on CSR is consumer, by the way. And if I leave the consumer sphere and they go to the B2B, for instance, for your client, you know that many SMBs are obliged to implement the CSR and obliged to comply with law and regulation because their client, which are big corporation, oblige them to implement health and safety practices. And they oblige them to have insurance for their people and oblige them to behave in a good way and to commit for zero tolerance for bribery and so on. So at the end of the day, the buyer has a strong power to oblige corporation, whether it is big or SMB, to implement CSR and to comply with the CSR rules.
Okay, we pass to the fifth question and final one. AI and tech can play a big role in CSR. It's all about philanthropy.
I think AI will play, and I think it plays or already a big role for helping consultant, helping managers to understand CSR, because first CI today help to access the knowledge about CSR, all the definitions and the concepts, and even approach methodologies, standards more easier than before. So today you ask GPT, how can I can implement biodiversity approach in my business? You give the business the name of the business in your prompt. Maybe you specify where is your location. You can specify as well what is are the key elements in terms of biodiversity, whatever, whether it is biodiversity in the sea or biodiversity on the shore or biodiversity in water and so on. And then the AI today is capable of really explaining to you what it takes to implement a biodiversity plan or a program, and how you can do it, and what are the steps and the methodology. So definitely AI today is disrupting the way we are getting access to the knowledge. And the knowledge is very key for people to understand that we need to act. Okay, so this is the first thing. The second thing for me, AI will be the best friend, let's say, of humans to decide better. Okay, because when you are working in CSR for years within the same company and you have a lot of data about your community, about your stakeholders, and so on, AI will help you a lot to analyze all this data and will help you to take the right decision in terms of priority, in terms of actions, and so on. So I'm quite sure that AI will help a lot. And of course, there is some other emergent technology which already help a lot in sustainability. By other technology, I mean, for instance, blockchain. You know, in sustainability and in CSR, you need to to give or to show the proof of your actions and of you can say you did good, but you need proof to show that you really did good. You need to measure impact on communities or some other stakeholders and so on, and then you need to manage this impact and to register it, in somewhere in the given infrastructure. And this is exactly what blockchain, for instance, can do for you. You can along your supply chain, you can track the action. You can track, for instance, if you source product or you source some resources from very far countries, you can track all these products from the mine, from the field until the fork or until the customer. And for instance, for the diamond, the example I give you earlier, uh, many companies today are using blockchain, for instance, to ensure the traceability and to monitor the traceability of the diamond since the mine until the final consumer. And you can a consumer in a country, when they buy a diamond piece, for instance, they know exactly from which mine it comes, in which country it was, you know, uh, it was manufactured, and they can know even the name of the, name of people that work on your piece, because there's a lot of handmade work on diamond and so on. So technology today, just consider it as a way, as a mean that will help you to act fast and to make, let's say, the right decision, because it will help you to understand very, very well and very quickly all the data and all the things that you need to be aware of it before you decide. So this is how I can see the contribution of tech in general, AI and blockchain, specifically in terms of improving the way we are managing the CSR.
This has been so eye opening. For our listeners who want to drive change, whether at their companies or as consumers, Where do you think they should start?
There is no general answer to this question because it depends of the context of everyone. But for me, as a citizen, uh, we need to start to act around us, and we need to start working at the level of our inner circle. Means family, means close friends, means our school for you, for instance, or it means, for instance, at our community, or at least at our family level, because there is a lot of things to do. We can even have our own CSR approach, because CSR is not for corporate. Don't forget that corporate doesn't mean anything. Corporate is a group of people that are organized to do operations, to transform products and services, and then to serve a customer. And in the heart of organization, it's people. So just don't forget that. If we want to really to drive the change in the society, we need to change at our level. So first of all, we need to have very good behavior in managing energy, behavior behave ethically when we are doing business, or we are, even if we are doing research which is requested by our professor or by our faculty. We need really to do the research, not really to copy the research, copycat the research of someone else. And so we need to start at our level. We need to behave ethically. We need to uh, to to take care of our environment, of planet, don't waste resources, and so on. We need to do it at our level. We need then to move at the closest community to us, so family or class or school or community and so on. And then, of course, tomorrow, if we are a manager and this is a decision maker, we need to do it our department, and of course at our company level and so on. And at the end of the day, if you want to make a change at the planet level, we need everyone to act at his or her level to do the change. Uh, there will not be change if only Greta Gutenberg do changes. We need all of our young people today to be Greta Gutenberg, and to do some work for first convincing people, explaining to people what is at stake. Uh, no, climate change, many people still today, they don't understand what is climate change. They just think it is about rain, about uh, drought, about water access and so on. They don't understand really what is the problem, and what we need to do to fix the problem. So yeah, so just start at your level and then contaminate others.
Thank you. And finally, what's one piece of advice for someone who thinks, I'm just one person, I can't change a corporation?
Yeah, I think that it's this. I will give the same answer, but in corporation, for instance, I think that even if you are a single person, and you do good and you develop your leadership, you will impact others. There will be followers. There will be people that will be willing to do the same thing that you. If you are not a manager now, if you are a manager and you have a team, you have the responsibility as a manager to influence your team. And by leading by example, by explaining to people every day what we have to do and so on, and we'll do it collectively, and of course, recognize the contribution of each member of your team and so on, and encourage them and so on. I am sure that if you change your department, you can again, impact and influence the other department and so on. But at the end of the day, when if we want to have a change at corporation level, someone should start. So are we going to wait all of us until our boss to start? Oh, sometimes the change is not coming from bosses. The change is coming from the base line of the company. And I am quite sure, for instance, for me, in regard of the climate change crisis and so on, that Gen Z will drive the change. It's not my generation, it's not the generation before, but I'm quite sure that millennial and Gen Z are the one that are going to drive the change, even if they don't have the power today, but they will have more instruments and more, other ways to influence even the previous generations. Just there is one reason for that is that the future that we are very concerned about is their future. My generation, I think we are less concerned by what will be happening in 40 or 50 years. But Gen Z are very concerned, but because they will be really in the eye of the storm if they don't act. So I am quite sure that the change will come from there, and we can see even today that the change is starting from there. For instance, in my personal life, my children, for instance, are challenging me sometimes about environment, about sustainability. And when I was a child like them, when I was 18, and even when I was not 18, but when I was 12 or even 14 or even 10 years old, I don't give any, you know, any pity to, I don't give any, I don't have any interest in sustainability and so on. Even if in maybe 30 years ago, we have already a lot of noise and a lot of, discussion about climate. So it's changing, and I'm sure that your generation will drive the change. I'm quite sure.
I want to sincerely thank you for sharing this invaluable insights today. Your work at City Trust Group and Foundation Amin perfectly illustrates how businesses can be both profitable and purposeful. You've given us so much to reflect on.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure as well.
At Orenda, we believe that every idea shared is a seed, and we're honored to plant them with you. If this episode moved you, inspired you, or made you think, share it with a friend, tag us on social media, or leave a quick review. Your voice helps us grow, and don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube for more conversations on technology, innovation, and impact. Stay tuned for episode 3, where we'll explore G Global, the student-led revolution, shaping tomorrow's leaders. Until then, keep profiting with purpose.